Michael Stohner. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Former Green Beret, CEO at Nomad International, security consultant. I had the honour of chatting with Michael Stohner, a former Green Beret living in Hawaii. Michael's journey from enlisting in the military post 9/11 to his current role in community engagement and security awareness is nothing short of inspiring. Here are some key takeaways from our conversation that you won't want to miss. Michael's military journey. Post 9/11, Michael's decision to join the military was deeply influenced by the events on September 11th. Special Forces training. He shared the rigorous process of becoming a Green Beret, from basic training to the Special Forces Qualification Course at Fort Bragg. And symbolism of the Green Beret. For Michael, earning the Green Beret was a pivotal moment, marking the start of a significant career in military service. We talked about current geopolitical issues, such as US involvement in global conflicts. Michael discusses the complexities of international relations and the US responsibility to support nations facing aggression, politicization of military operations, the challenges of conveying the full scope of military operations to the public. And on to practical advice with Nomad International, Michael's company. Empowering individuals. Michael's company focuses on increasing situational awareness and mindfulness through everyday tradecraft and specialized training. Security audits. Offering services to help individuals take control of their own safety without resorting to lethal means. RFID secure wallets. Michael's tips on protecting personal information and belongings in today's digital age. Everyday carry, EDC, practical items for personal protection, such as including a tactical flashlight, metal water bottle. This episode is packed with valuable insights and practical advice you don't want to miss. Tune in to hear Michael's incredible story and learn how you can enhance your own security awareness. You can find Mike at the show notes below. His website is thenomadknows.com and on Insta, Mike.Stohner, Stohner, and again, the show notes are below, so click on them. Thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former New Zealand Special Forces operator, subject matter expert from hownotodie.com.au. And you're listening to my Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, sponsored by these guys, mystate.com, the ultimate daily formula for optimum hormone health, stress management, energy, and performance. 100% natural and clinically proven ingredients, it provides everything you need to raise your game in a convenient, gut-friendly capsule. Links for my former shows are in the show notes below. Thanks for watching. Good. And we're live. Welcome to the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast. Welcome to my guest this morning, all the way from Hawaii. I don't know if I've had a guest from Hawaii, but a lot from the States. Michael Stohner, welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute privilege to be here. Thank you for your service to your nation, fellow commando. Massive respect for you and for your counterparts, who I think I mentioned to you before. I've had the privilege of working alongside when I was deployed to Afghanistan, when that was still a thing.
Yeah, wow. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. And it comes off the back of the interview with All Blacks coach Steve Hansen yesterday. So many guests, and the example I gave to him was Todd Bowler, a personal friend, but a Guinness World Record holder. We don't celebrate, those guys just don't celebrate their own successes so much. And I don't think it's about, tooting your horn, but I think it's important and it's helpful for someone like myself to actually celebrate the successes of these people, because we're not used to sort of waving that flag. And I think it's also so difficult. We can find that when we transition to business, saying, this is what we do. Michael, the lead into the show, everybody's heard my show notes about you and what you've done, but a hell of a journey, hell of a career, and now we're into the next chapter of that. Really cool to read what you did from Special Forces with the Green Berets, and I'd like to maybe touch on what that explain what that actually is, the differences for everybody out there. But you also served some time with assisting the FBI or assisting other law enforcement agencies. Is that the people you worked with, the FBI and so on, in investigations?
During my time in the service, touched on working together with these different intergovernmental agencies. I wasn't assigned to them or anything, just to make sure that we're clear on that. But during the course of my duties and responsibilities while I was still on active duty, I had the opportunity to work with representatives from the FBI and some of the other intel agencies that we have here in the U.S. Now, post retirement, um, in an effort to better understand some of the challenges that we have here in the islands, here in the United States as a whole. I'm also a volunteer and involved with two other programs. Both are essentially run by the Justice Department, by the FBI. The first one is called InfraGard, which is essentially a conglomerate of industry professionals that monitor and share experiences about some of the challenges that we face here in the United States with regards to you know, security challenges that we have to our infrastructure.
Sure.
Which is funny because, I mean, look, right before we jumped in this call, I mentioned that we've been having rolling blackouts here in
Yeah.
Hawaii. Accident, weather related, surely, but it does speak to a larger problem that here in the United States, across, I'm sure, the Western world in general, where we are struggling with maintaining our infrastructure to manage this pull and this desire on electricity and just
Yeah.
the load that we have. Now, the second part, to get to your initial point about the FBI, is I was also fortunate enough to be part of a program called the FBI's Citizens Academy.
Right.
And that is a program that uh, helps members or helps these students, the attendees, to better understand the mission of the FBI and how they operate within the communities that they operate in. Here in Hawaii, the FBI just a couple of years ago got a brand new building, so they have a much larger footprint here in the islands that supports the islands and our American territories, Guam, CNMI, and American Samoa. But essentially, this program that I'm part of helps to be an FBI ambassador to the community,
Right.
raise awareness, raise funds, and just help to dispel some misconceptions that there might be.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll touch on, you talked about awareness and so on there, and it's really what you do with your business and your skill set and helping others. But just want to finish off on the FBI. I was lucky enough to have Steve Lazarus, and for the listeners, just punch into the Google world, Steve Lazarus books, and he wrote a really cool book. But 20-year retired now, 20-year FBI agent. Um, he's like in his 50s, and he's viral on TikTok. His daughter said, "Dad, you're viral on TikTok now." And he was great to chat to, talking about what the FBI did, what he did there, and he actually went a different direction afterwards. He wrote a fiction book, much like Jack Carr from the U.S. Navy SEALs did the fiction series, which was absolutely brilliant. But he would draw from his own experiences, and it was really interesting. But just you know what I found interesting with him, Mike, was Steve was really grounded, really grounded. You know, when I look at the United States, I can only look at it through media, and the organizations have their biases. You know, let's just be very broad brush. Fox will have one audience, so they give media, I don't say news, to that audience, and then the other ones will have their audience. They say their messaging or narratives, I think the word is. But you know, looking at it, it's not grounded at all. But when you talk to someone who actually knows what the hell's going on, Steve was so grounded in what he knew and things. It was great to see, and it gave me good confidence again in what the FBI generally entails.
Yep, yep, absolutely right. And you mentioned media versus news. I know in some of your previous interviews, you've touched briefly on some of this stuff as well, and it's being able to, as an American, be able to cut through the individual narratives of what they're trying to put out and try to make informed decisions about what's really happening, whether it's domestically or internationally. So continuous challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible from the media. I really don't, because they do it so well. They get their message out. And I don't think it's able for an uneducated person to be able to discern that at all. But it kind of brings us to what you're doing. After all your time in special forces, what you're doing now and empowering others with skill sets you learned in tradecraft. Let's wind back though. Green Beret, Special Forces, we've got all these words that get thrown around. I remember when I interviewed Pat Mack, the first time we were talking about his career path. Can you please just explain for the listeners what your path was in the military to your peak in your career and what the differences are between those sort of stepping stones?
Well, my journey to Special Forces honestly started after 9/11.
Right.
9/11 was the pivotal moment for me. I remember watching the events unfold on TV, and I felt helpless, and I felt like I needed to do something. So it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't very long after the events of 9/11 that I went to a recruiting station here in the islands in Hawaii, in Honolulu, and I asked them about options to join the service. Special Forces, Green Berets. Even as a kid growing up, I always had a reverence for them. You know, growing up as a kid of the 80s, you watch movies, right? You see Rambo, you see Navy
Absolutely.
SEALs. So you put these uh, professions into this category that almost seem unattainable.
Yep.
Um, I went to the recruiting office and, not knowing anything better, I said, hey, I want to be able to help people, maybe be a medic or something, and maybe become a ranger or something.
Right.
Look, I don't know.
Yep.
And, zippity doo dah looked at his computer and he's like, nope, can't do that. But lucky you, there's this brand new program called the 18 X-ray program where we can put you straight into Special Forces. And I was nervous about the prospect, but that's the option that I chose. So I had a couple of months to just train up on my own, following along with their, train up prior to even going to basic training, and then went to basic training, followed the whole path down in Georgia, went through infantry basic training, basic airborne school, and then from there up to Fort Bragg, or now Fort Liberty in North Carolina, and went through the process of going through the Q course.
Yep.
Um, definitely, since I've been asked, what was one of the most defining moments for me, as a grown man, what would I like whittle it down to? And besides being a father to my kids and a husband to my wife, professionally speaking, it's earning the Green Beret, because all of these successes that, we'll touch on surely some of them during our conversation today, but none of these successes would have manifested themselves the way they had if I had not earned that Green Beret first and foremost. So it
Yeah.
was a tremendous, tremendous thing for me to experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. People don't realize what it takes to get to that level, but what it means personally. Um, so given the timeline there, you must have been in the unit or when Pat was either just going from from Green Berets into Delta.
I got to my first unit, 10 Special Forces Group in which is focused on Europe. And I got to the unit in 2004.
Yep.
2004.
Yeah, so he would have been in Delta then, and he did the same thing. He did the 18 X-ray that you spoke about, the straight into the Special Forces, smashed that, and was in Europe as well. He's got some great stories about operating. Yeah, thinking about it as I'm talking, it was in the East Germany around the Soviet bloc times. So yeah, quite a bit earlier.
Yep, yep. Definitely familiar with his story and with the storied history of the unit that he was assigned to. As a Green Beret, I know that there's conjure all kinds of images of what a Green Beret does, and I'm sure with other branches and other soft units. But for me as a Green Beret, I always looked at it, the mystique of unconventional warfare, the Cold War. So um, I'm huge student of learning more about every day, learning something new about that time period. I mean, look at the picture behind me, or the meeting, right? So you have Green Berets meeting together with partisans to do stuff and things, supporting resistance movement. So yeah.
And that's really where it came from with SOE and World War II and Nancy Wake and so on. We're definitely going to go for the listeners into how that relates to their life, how you're transforming those skills you learned into teaching others to take care of themselves. But I just want a little bit for me, and definitely for the listeners, what does a Green Beret do? And I ask that because my role as a counter-terrorist operator was literally hostage rescue in all the different domains. And there was some things that got expanded there as well. Very different than the New Zealand SAS uh, reconnaissance role, very different than the direct action role. And your role is very different than Delta, and you talked about the SEALs as well. So what does a Green Beret do? What's the sort of job title or explanation?
Purpose, first and foremost, even the creation of special forces is to conduct unconventional warfare. Unconventional warfare, the definitions has changed over the years. A lot of graybeards, not to count myself among those graybeards at all, despite my gray beard, but a lot of graybeards, folks that have come before us, sit around, think about these things and about what unconventional warfare means. And the current iteration essentially means to enable a government to coerce, disrupt, or overthrow a government regime in support of national policy objectives, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that special forces does that all on their own. The special forces, from my own experiences and from my own understanding, has been primarily to work together with our foreign partners. Now, whether that is to build a resistance unit, as we talked about with World War II, I think most recently folks like to reference special forces working together with our Northern Alliance partners in Afghanistan at the start of our Afghan campaign, and it continues to this day. So working together with, whether it's a conglomerate of a armed group, unarmed group, whatever that may be, because we did the same thing in Vietnam as well, to working together with an armed component, actually working together with foreign militaries. And that brings me to the second part of what Special Forces does, which is foreign internal defense. So for us, bottom line is Special Forces are master trainers.
Yeah.
They teach us how to teach others to do the job so that we don't have to do it. And then we can support with a train, assist, advise, a type of support. So foreign internal defense sees Special Forces A teams, ODAs, travel to foreign countries, work together with those foreign militaries to help us integrate better with each other. We better understand how we work together and how we can better support each other in case of conflict.
You mentioned the A-team. It made me think back to the 80s there as well.
That's right. That's absolutely right. We also conduct, well, we did very popular, or it was one of the key components, and I'm sure that some of these graybeards I referenced to can speak to this, about conducting CSAR operations to support rescue of downed pilots behind enemy lines. I think the last time we did that, don't hold me to this, but I think the last time we did this was during the Bosnia conflict. Understand that different groups across the globe do different things, so
Yep.
I'm not savvy with what all the other groups are doing. We also support counterterrorism operations. So I know you mentioned counterterrorism. That is definitely one of the things that Special Forces does. direct action, door kicking, for
Yep.
lack of better words, and special reconnaissance. So
Yep.
sniper team operations, those types of things, intelligence collection. I hope I'm not missing anything, but those are the predominant missions of special forces. But at the end of the day, everything that we do was geared towards working with partners and allies,
Yep.
using the strength of our partners and allies to achieve US policy objectives.
You guys are the tools for those US policy objectives,
Right.
and that transitions perfectly or segues into a personal question. It's one that I get asked often as well, particularly now, and I'll speak with Green Beret buddies just about every day, and some buddies overseas about the state of the USA. How do you personally, or how did you personally um, uh, ratify? I'm searching for another word there, but maybe how did you figure out what you're doing was right versus what the policymakers, and I don't like that term at all. That sounds pretty bad, to be fair, or your government was telling you. How did you justify that in your own brain when you were working?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's certainly a question that I've had an opportunity to reflect on. I'll caveat this by sharing something. As a brand new Green Beret, you didn't know anything, and uh, you you often just want to get the job done. You're raging against the machine
Yep.
of command telling
Yep.
you this can't be done or that can't be done. And as you slowly work your way through the ranks, you get a better understanding of why things are the way they are. Not right, wrong, and different, but you just have a better understanding of why are you in this country? Why are you working with this partner? Like, what is the strategic goal? What is the U.S. government getting out of this engagement? Like, why am I sitting in this embassy in this country?
Yep.
Um, Being able to talk to other intergovernmental partners, interagency partners to try to get an understanding of what they're doing in the country as well, helps make sense of it all. Now, for me personally, and this is something that I shared with my son as well, as he has looked at his own journey with the U.S. government. Look, at the end of the day, policy, whoever the political leaders are of the country, they're going to pursue whatever political priorities they have. That may or may not fit with a soldier's personal belief systems, personal, I don't know if you want to call it a personal agenda, but it doesn't necessarily sit with exactly how I see what I should be doing or can be doing to represent the US government. So as a soldier, as a special forces soldier, as somebody who's been entrusted with increased responsibility to work on behalf of the US government in foreign countries, I just try to do the best job that I can, learn as much as I can, build strong partnerships with as many people as I can, and try to take all of those lessons that I learned just with me to help me just be a better human being, bottom line. Like,
Yep.
not even an American, but just being a better human being. And really living in the moment of some of these crazy experiences that you just have being in the military service, let alone being in special operations. So I try not to get too wrapped around the axle.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said it very eloquently and very detailed as well, Mike. I was the same when I was in. So there's two parts to that question. When you were serving and then out, and we'll come to the second part. When I was in, I might not agree with the government. I literally, as an example, I might not, but I'm going to fight to save my buddy beside me because some bad guys are shooting at us. It comes down to that
Right.
simple thing you said wrapped around the axles. I'm keeping it that basic. And it's also your job. Now you're out.
Right.
The second part of the question. Now you're looking at, and US is so in the news with what's going on worldwide. $100 billion. I don't even know. That's just a number. It's not even probably correct.
Yeah,
That's
what's wrong?
billions of dollars to Ukraine and all these things, and not taking anything away from the people who are getting hurt, but the government is so much in the news and using their forces for that, and their money, the money that you as taxpayers pay. What are your thoughts now on how the policymakers and the government is working? It seems to be pretty broken over there in the United States.
Uh, this is, it's a complex issue.
Mm.
It really is a complex issue. And because of some of these professional relationships that I've had with our intergovernmental partners, I know that things that are reported in the news and things that are our face, like that's being put out into the public, is not always what it seems. There are certainly a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that, again, right, wrong, it's just not being shared with the American public or with the world's viewing audience. You mentioned Ukraine, and I think that the conflict in Ukraine is being over politicized. If we boil it down to a sovereign nation was invaded and they're asking for help to solve this invasion or to reverse this invasion, I think that as a good ally and partner, regardless of what nation, whether it's the United States or the UK or NATO writ large,
Yeah.
Has a responsibility to support a nation that wants to be free. I mean, look, as a Green Beret, our motto is "De oppresso liber," to free the oppressed. From my understanding, what's happening in Ukraine, that country is being oppressed by an aggressor. I will posit that this doesn't fairly equate to every single country in the world that needs help. I get that, and that is I think that's a that's a problem in and of itself that we're not going to be able to solve, especially if you're talking about other developing nations that also have a yearning to be free.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about the United States' principal adversary after World War II, that for all intents and purposes appears to be making a resurgence and trying to reestablish itself and achieve some of its former glory that they possessed, during the period of the Cold War, then certainly there is pause for concern with how far do we let a country like that go, especially when viewing or hearing some of the rhetoric of their political leaders. But that doesn't justify unwanted spending on the part of the United States, but it does, in my personal opinion, justify support to a country. I absolutely think we should always ask the question about where's the money going? What are we paying for? A bit more transparency would be great.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, my personal experiences, I know that it appears to be a just support.
It's interesting. You've used the word politicization a few times there, and I think that as politics screws things up so much, it's quite easy when we're in the military. You almost alluded to that before. It's pretty simple. We don't get wrapped around the axles, and yeah, it's just the way it goes. And yeah, those guys with the power and the money, they're making the decisions. But what's great and what I love about you answering there, Mike, and those tough questions. I didn't know where we were going with this show. I organically have a couple of angles. I don't.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus. But what I do love about your answers, much like Todd Fox of tourprotection.com mentioned, just very respectful of you're almost encompassing in your answer. And he has to do that with, when he's giving advice to a movie star or a rock star or whoever. This is the advice I can give you, sir, madam, on the situation. But if you really want to go there, the boss is the boss. The boss is paying you. You do security uh, audits and so on places and businesses, and the same thing. You're going to give very, almost like Steve Hansen did yesterday, not too overexcited or underexcited, just very solid advice, like Steve Lazarus, very, very solid uh, speaker. So your answer was great, and it segues into how I think you conduct your business. Nomad International, I had a look at the website, it looks really slick, really explains what you do. And so many people on here, they're there to help others. And I can see that's what you're doing, finding your purpose there. Let's now talk about you're running a security consulting company on increasing situation awareness and mindfulness through everyday tradecraft and also specialized training. So you're, much like so many of us, using your skills to teach others to stay safe, to know their situations. As I was reading through your website, it was like literally a CEO that maybe doesn't think at all about his safety, but just outsources it to bodyguards or the security company. Those people could really do quite well and be relatively empowered as well. It seems very clever what you're doing. So what started your idea to start off Nomad International, and how is it going teaching these people your skills, your tradecraft skills and learned experiences?
Well, again, looking at this veritable guest list that you've had on your show, industry, I mean, really industry professionals across the whole spectrum, right? A lot of the folks that you have on your show are bona fide established entrepreneurs. For me, Nomad International is still, I'm essentially building this airplane in flight.
Love it.
I essentially took the different experiences, the different training that I've acquired over the years in service, and things that I feel strongly about, and I try to address an issue, or I try to solve a problem. And the problem that I identified first and foremost here in the islands is, while it's paradise, I mean, there's a lot of problems here. You've seen Magnum PI, you've seen
I
Hawaii
was thinking that,
Five-0.
I was thinking the same thing.
There's
You
a
read my
lot of
mind.
problems. There's a lot of problems here. No, no, but quite honestly, there appears to be two different ways to solve uh, or respond to crime here. On one end of the spectrum, you get security systems installed, which will give you cameras, they'll maybe give you lights, and you'll get a fancy app so that when you're out to dinner somewhere, you can watch people break into your house and steal your stuff.
Yeah.
Or if you have the financial means, which some of the residents absolutely do here in the islands, they have the funds to be able to pay for high-end security services, where they actually have a uniformed or ununiformed security guards sitting outside their house protecting them. But what do we have in the middle? How do we empower everybody? Like, I think
Yeah.
everybody has the right to feel safe. My personal approach, as you've likely seen on my website, is that none of that is lethal. I stop at the threshold of violence. There are a lot of fantastic tactical instructors out there. They'll teach you whatever you want to learn, you included, right? The practical applications that you teach very cleverly to your clients, that breaches that threshold of violence to be able to protect yourself.
Yeah.
But for me, it's to just empower folks to become better versions of themselves through mindfulness, to understand themselves, understand their biases, while at the same time increasing their overall situational awareness to know what's happening around you, like understand your place in the world
Mm.
at any given moment. This security audits, I mean, look, that's something that I'm very comfortable with doing, having done that in the service. So that's one of the additional services that I currently provide. And this is by no means a like end all be all. As the business develops, grows, with my personal experiences, I'm sure that my line of services will expand, and I'm all about bringing in other subject matter experts to provide whatever training that, whatever my limitation is. I will find somebody to answer the problem that a client is having. So
Yeah.
that's really where it came from, to be able to answer this middle piece that I felt is missing.
I love how you said, if there is a problem that needs to be solved, paraphrasing now, you get someone else in, and that's the humility of somebody who has good self-reflection, knows their skill sets, but also, what if there's something I can't actually provide. Now, were we talking Tom Selleck, Magna PI? We're talking the modern thing.
The original, the mustachioed, the
Yeah,
mustachioed Magnum.
exactly, exactly. Look, and we kicked off this show. We just rolled straight into it. This is your first show. You've never been on a podcast before. I think I've written down in the blurb for Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, I interview the best people in the world at what they do. That's what I tell people when they ask me what the podcast is about. And I don't blow smoke. I don't have to. And just because you're starting, you're saying you're building the plane as you're flying it, doesn't mean you're not one of the best people in the world at what you do. It's just not that many people have heard of you or hiring you. So absolutely happy. I've done it with another, there was a female, Josie Bullman, a couple of years ago, just a brilliant trainer. I saw what she was doing. She was young, but very, very clever in her approach, a former almost pro basketballer. And I wanted to lift her up and promote her to the world a little bit more as well. And she's come in leaps and bounds. I actually saw a before and after progression video of hers yesterday. But same deal, Michael. Just because it's only a startup doesn't mean that it's not absolutely valid, absolutely valuable, um, and going to take off. Really clever what you
Thank you,
said
Danny.
about. You're most welcome. You're most welcome. Really clever what you said about that threshold of violence as well. One thing, this is for the listeners. We'll know it, Mike and I, but for the listeners, unless you've been exposed to violence, you will not perform on the day. And what I mean by that is, if you're in America or the States or whatever, and you're going there doing these tactical gun courses, that's great. But unless you're put under psychological pressure in a controlled environment by someone who knows what they're doing, then you won't perform. You just probably spray and pray with the gun. With the self-defense in general, and if you're going to go to a dojo and learn a sport, unless you've been exposed to ever increasing degrees of stress and or possible violence, controlled violence, we call it stress inoculation in Mike's and I world, it won't work on the day. It's unlikely to. And Tony Blauer, another guest, great guy, he talked about it. He'll never do some self-defense people, you finish the course and then they say, right, within the week, somewhere in the week, I'm gonna attack you. And it's like your graduation. Sounds like the dumbest idea in the world. And Tony won't do it, and I won't do it, because if someone did that to me, I'd kill them.
Right. Right.
Because
Absolutely right.
that's the level you may need to go to. So what I loved about you knowing that level of you're going to teach them all the awareness, understanding of where you're up to here, very, very clever, because I can't throw out a percentage, but that's going to get you out of so much trouble so often. And if you can avoid it, that's the point of self-defense. If you're not there in the bad guy's world, then nothing's happened to you.
Right. And, I hate to use this word again, politicization, but as we're talking about violence, the right to self-defense, Hawaii is a very liberal state. It's been, I think, Democrat controlled for in excess of like 60 plus years.
Wow.
Again, right, wrong, it just
Yep.
is what it is. But what that means is, in the context of self-defense, even if you defend yourself, whether it's with a firearm, your you know uh, graveyard or hospital, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
right? However you do it, there is potential for you to run amiss of the law initially as well
Yeah.
as they try to figure out what happened. Now, even if you execute a righteous kill, if you want to call that, um, there's going to be problems for you. So if you can avoid not only the legal aspect of it, but for me personally, also something that I think that is not really, I think addressed enough is the psychological impact of taking
Yep.
a life.
Yep.
Um, that that's something that I think is often uh, just kind of waved away. That that I just want to be clear that that doesn't mean that you don't have the inherent right to self-defense. Everybody has the right to self-defense to whatever degree the situation requires.
Yeah, the circumstances require uh you believe them to be.
Right. But there are second and third order effects
Mm.
of that singular event that you're going to have to deal with, whether it's with the law, whether it's psychologically. And my intent is to avoid is to provide options.
Absolutely.
See the problem, avoid the problem.
Oh, exactly. And as you're saying that, I'm getting uh, scenarios, and I'm thinking, the CEO, sure, he's got some idea about what's going on, but his wife with the baby and the kid, and maybe she gets in a road rage incident. The last thing she'll ever want to do when she's taking one of them to school, and she's got Bub in the baby seat, is to pull a gun or some other crazy stuff. She want she wants to be able to go, oh, there's something happening a long way off and not even be there or just drive away, because the last thing she wants to do is pull the trigger on someone if you're in the States, or have the window smashed or any crazy stuff. Let's just not be there. Uh, First place, and your skill sets of bringing that from what you've done is absolutely brilliant. Um, yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. Then again, I ask people, what's the first rule of self-defense? And my answer to that, only mine, is there's no rules, anything goes. But
Right.
if you can just avoid that situation and get the ego out of it, uh, absolutely the best idea you possibly ever have. And when you're taught by an expert like you, Mike, when you're when the group is listening to you or the individuals listening to you, they'll take that on board. They'll be able to take their ego out of it that much more because you're a professional at what you do.
I mean, you use the key word there, ego. That I think is something that a lot of uh, course attendees and some instructors struggle with is the ego and how they present themselves to the world. Certainly, there are different reasons why I think people do that. I think part of it is insecurity,
Right. Yep.
uh, or perhaps feelings of inadequacy that they have to find a way to bolster their ego by representing or showing a face to the world that may not be consistent with their actual values. I saw this great image once where there's a tough guy and he's taking his face off, and inside the tough guy is actually a crying child.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
we all have problems that we have to deal with. I'm just trying to find a way for folks to deal with these issues, become more mindful, tap into their own biases, and find ways to just be more situationally aware.
It's interesting you spoke about ego there in that way, because did you ever feel insecure? Did you ever feel insecure as part of a team in any job you did?
I will be honest and share that there were times where I have been part of some absolutely fantastic courses and teams that I was part of where I thought to myself, I don't know if I belong here. I mean,
There's
the folks
that.
around me are just amazing. Like, I can't believe that I'm here.
Yep.
Uh, so, there's
But
there's a
no, I
term
didn't.
that
Maybe if I didn't
some
get the question right, absolutely. There can be the imposter syndrome because you're surrounded by so many good people, and our humbleness, our humility, does bring that out. That's normal. But to get the job
Yep.
done, did you ever go, oh, we need to ego up? Are you insecure as a team to achieve the mission?
No,
No,
no.
no,
I felt
exactly.
comfortable enough when the time came to do the job, you do the job.
Yeah,
But when there's time to reflect, I think that imposter syndrome uh, was absolutely that was absolutely part of the equation.
yeah,
Um, because again, you're surrounded by absolute professionals,
yeah.
and you constantly have to check yourself. Like, am I really living up to the expectations that my teammates have of me, that my command has of me, that the nation has of me? Uh,
You're going to love the show.
I need to
I
be
just recorded
these
yesterday with
versions.
the New Zealand All Blacks coach Steve Hansen. He literally spoke about that in the first 5 minutes. And one of the first things he does to get the new players on board is, right, we chose you because you're worthy. That's not quite the words he used, but chose you because you're good enough. Now here's their expectations. But you said, to do the job as a team, you just a professional. You know what you're doing. There's no insecure feeling. But when it comes out of into the civilian world and the personal world, and some person road rages you, or some person says bad words, or whatever's going on, that affronts our ego, and it's a bit different. But learning from a professional like yourself, and who guards the president, who guards the prime ministers, and I was lucky enough to have the head of the bodyguard team for the Australian prime minister on. His job, he said, was to run and hide, get the prime minister and run and hide. Now,
That's right.
imagine
I heard that.
some. Yeah, you
I
did.
watched that one.
Yeah, what a nice guy, Gary Fahey. But the classical road rage, if something did go down and you didn't have the weaponry in your brain or in your personal armament to do that, you would run and hide, and you have no problem with that. If it was about protection, you'd grab your kids and run and hide, and we've done the job. But the point I'm trying to get to is being taught the right things from a professional to then implement in your everyday life. That take those points on board. It's not about going and getting your big gun and all the gear and raging around. It's about learning from professionals at what it actually takes to do that. No bodyguard even wants to get in a fight, and if they have, they've done it wrong.
There's a great line from Star Wars: "Let the Wookiee win." It's just not necessary. It's okay. It's okay. It's really
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. Oh, so true. I wanted to touch on one question for you. It maybe comes off that a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's one I've asked a few operators, but it's common and uh, quite popular nowadays. EDC, everyday carry, and I know we've got to have a lot of tactical people on this as well. What's your EDC? So when you're going to go out of the house, and it's strange when I ask that question, and some Americans have been asked it because they're talking about their gun. Um, Whereas Pat Mack just this morning was talking about his EDC, his everyday car. Um, what do you have on you for your everyday carry as a former Green Beret, 15 years, and as a current security consultant and specialist for Nomad International?
Car keys, um, wallet, my cell phone, obviously, so I can communicate. Actually, wrote down separately a list of contacts in case there's an issue with my cell phone. So I just have things written down. I think we've become so complacent with, I'm just going to go into my memory of my telephone and be able
Yeah,
to call family, friends, whatever. So I have a series of contact numbers written down.
great.
And honestly, if we're talking personal protection, a flashlight. That's it. Just a tactical flashlight.
And
That's it.
I know, but for the listeners that don't, how would you use that tactical flashlight for personal protection?
Honestly, you can use the flashlight to blind somebody to create distance.
Yep.
Now, something that I shared with my wife as well. You see me drinking from this this metal bottle here. It's really nothing fancy, but um, if you're traveling abroad or if my wife is traveling, I often encourage her to carry a metal water bottle with her, maybe a carabiner or some type of not rope, but some kind of cordage on it
Yep.
to just use as something as a self-defense um,
Tool.
device, again, to build distance and egress
Yep.
if it becomes an issue.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hey, that's cool. Wallet. So that was great. That's a great tip. As a cop, I used to have laminated sheets of phone numbers because as a cop, we were taught, look, if you don't know what's going on and you don't know how to deal with it, you think it's over your head, just start phoning people. And so there's a list of phone numbers to call, which was always good. And it's not in your phone. So great tip on that one. Get a little laminated card of the phone numbers that are important. Um, my one, when you said wallet, my debit card and my credit card are in RFID envelopes, just very small envelopes. They're no bigger, but that can't be taken as well. So I don't want my funds to be taken by someone just swiping that as well.
That's actually a great idea. Um, a couple of years ago, I purchased a wallet that said it's RFID secure. So, look, I haven't had to test the theory yet, but that's the same premise, right? You want to protect your belongings, you want to
Yeah.
protect your valuables and your personal information. So, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, if you have got a
absolutely,
pin,
Damien, I absolutely agree with that.
if you've got a pin number on your card, you might as well stop people from getting it. But the way I test it, Mike, is sometimes when you go to pay and you go to do the pay pass, I actually don't take it out. Oh, it's not working, and then I take it out, and I know that it does work.
Right, right, right. Well, you're talking about pins and stuff. That's what goes underneath the keyboard, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Awesome. So again, at the start of the show, everybody's heard the show notes and where to find you. But for the listeners at this stage, where's the best place to go and find out more about what you do? Is it the website, and what is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Listeners, your viewers can check out www.thenomadknows.com, one word, it's all together. And I also have two social media sites. The first one is my personal Instagram page, which is mike.stoner. And then also the business one, which is work in progress, understandable, as we discussed. That is also the Nomad Knows. And between each of the words, there's an underscore. So
Yep.
you can find me there.
The Nomad knows, and of course, knows is in KNOWS.
KNOWS. That's right. The goal is to ultimately um, have features on YouTube where I share some of these lessons that we're talking about. We just haven't gotten to that point yet.
It's a bit of a big beast as social media and YouTube. I so often forget to put an interview, snippets from an interview onto YouTube, but often that's the best place because YouTube's a search engine and social media needs to have followers. So and it's funny because whenever I need to fix something in the house, I literally just put into YouTube, how do you fix? Yesterday we fixed a broken drawer. It was great. So it'll be how do you do this with your security side of things as well.
That's right. Absolutely right.
Cool, Mike. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Great to see you. Great to have connected. I appreciate you reaching out a couple weeks ago and getting on the phone. It's always stunning to me how the technology can allow this to occur. We start a relationship here, we start a communication, and it's great for connection. Uh, Todd Bowler spoke about purpose, identity, and connection. If you lose those three, it's like a three-legged stool. But you lose all of them, it's a bad day out. Um, it also shows accessibility. I think these people are real. We've mentioned Pat Mack a couple of times. He's a real guy. And we're all human. And so many times people have said, "Look, if you need something, just ask." And it's brilliant that you're turning that into a business to help others as well. So I appreciate your time coming on. I appreciate you sharing your journey and about what you did. And yeah, I'm just stoked to be able to get that out to the audience.
Damien, thank you again for having me. It was an absolute privilege to be on your show.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much. I'll hit pause. We'll have a chat.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former Special Forces operator, and check out my new project for 2023 at hownottodie.com.au, where I've combined all my Special Forces training and police officer experience to help others. Thanks for watching.